when whippoorwill call, and evening is nigh, I hurry to my blue heaven.
G'day and welcome to my blue heaven, and 48 hours now, or nearly 48 hours after a meritorious win by the Carlton Football Club. It was brave. It was unbelievable. So the roller coaster of emotions in that last quarter against Fremantle. Whether you want to experience those again, but that's what football's about. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was the ultimate. I spoke about this a lot this year. It was the ultimate team performance, and we haven't had many of those this year. And to do what they were able to do without Cripps, our best player, also the captain, without the influence of Harry Mackay, not to forget also, David Cunningham, who was unavailable, and then losing obviously Charlie in that first quarter. And having Mitch McGovern as well, a little bit sore as well. It was just. Yeah, I mean, I can't describe the feeling, the elation with the boys being able to secure a win basically in that last 30 seconds and then hold on. It was just fantastic. What I'd like to do is just concentrate on 7 things in this episode. And mostly, if you can't be positive in what's transpired since David Teague took over the coaching role in the last 3 weeks or the last month, given that we had the bye as well, then there's something seriously wrong. So most of this will be positive. But I suppose, just want to start off with just a little bit of a negative in regards to our first quarters. If you look at the last 3 games against Brisbane, the Western Bulldogs, and then against Fremantle, we kicked a combined tally of 2 goals, 7, 19 points. 2 of those quarters have been goalless. Against the Lions and then on the weekend again. It's nearly Bolton-esque in regards to scoring. Now, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but if David Teague, who we all think is doing a wonderful job tactically, being able to shift the magnets around, change things up, I think if he has aspirations of wanting to be the senior coach, this is one area that needs to be fixed up. And, looking at that, that's a real concern. I think against real quality opposition as well. I don't think we're going to be in a position to be clawing our way back in the game. So that needs to change. But on the flip side, what I really want to talk about is our last quarters. And this is such a pleasing thing. In the 3 games that David Teague's been in charge, we've kicked, compared to the 2 goals, 7, we've kicked 14 goals, 9, 93 in last quarters across those 3 games, including 10 scoring shots, 5 goals, 5 against the Dockers in really slippery and difficult conditions at Optus Stadium on the weekend. And that's big numbers for a team that has struggled to score over the last 3 or 4 years. And such a pleasing aspect of our game that I never thought at any stage in that last quarter that we couldn't win that game, just because we were able to score and score quite heavily in those last quarters. And, there's a real belief that it can be done. Taking on the game, we saw, that really, I suppose, situation with Paddy Dow late in the game where, he probably lacked a little bit of composure. His eyes were darting around, but he really wanted to keep the game moving. And that's pretty much the way we want to play at the moment. And I also want to speak about, is there now, we're now starting to see the impact of our high performance manager and Andrew Russell. Their ability to run out games is really impressive. There's a real belief there now. And I think over the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to really see that with what this guy's able to do with our young list moving forward. So those last quarters have just been absolutely fantastic. But the concern is those first quarters, we want to see a real lift in intensity. It's not so much intensity. I think in the game against Brisbane, early in the first, say 5 or 10 minutes, we had a fair bit of the play and the effort was good. And even against the Dockers, the effort was good. But something was falling down, so I'm not quite sure what it was, but that will need to be addressed very quickly, and hope we see a response against Melbourne on the weekend. Second thing I'd like to talk about is a real increase in our clearance work, particularly out of the middle. Over the last 3 weeks, we're plus 10 in clearances out of the guts, and plus 24 overall. And that means, we saw this in the second quarter against the Dockers, it means we're able to play the game in our front half, which is really important for us. I think what's really strong about our team at the moment is we have some really good defenders who read the ball very well and can set up behind the ball in Jones Wiedering and Marchbank. They're three of the best readers of the play. And that was so effective on the weekend in the second half. And when we're able to win the ball out of the middle and win the clearances overall, it just shows you how important Matthew Cruiser is to us. And I've loved the fact that David Teague has put Mark Murphy into the guts, and that was shown again on the weekend. He was absolutely amazing, Mark Murphy, and also Ed Curnow with 16 clearances. Just phenomenal. And, you look at what I suppose Bolton was trying to do for the future is have those young guys in the middle, but now we see the young guys on the periphery, the guys like Dow and Fisher and O'Brien and Sam Petreski-Seaton. They can now sort of play their own game a little bit on the outside and not be relied upon to do the grunt work in the middle. And that's been a real focus in the last 3 weeks, that we've been able to get the game on our own terms in our front half, and it's just been absolutely fantastic. So I want to talk now in regards to, I mentioned Caleb Marchbank. So I want to talk about 3 players in particular: Caleb Marchbank, Sam Petreski-Seaton and Jack Silvani. Well, I think we're now seeing boys becoming men. Particularly with Caleb Marchbank, I just noticed his size on the weekend. I know he had an injury interrupted pre-season with his back, but he's come back looking really big and really strong and confident. And one thing he's really improved is his kicking. We always knew he was a fantastic intercept mark. He's got courage, but now he's starting to use the ball very well, and he looks imposing. And having him and Wiedering down there, 2 real big young key defenders with Jones, he looks fantastic, Caleb Marchbank, at the moment, and that's one that Sauce has got right, getting him across from GWS. So it's a massive thumbs up at the moment for Caleb Marchbank. I thought that was one of his best games for the Carlton Football Club. And I think the same with Sam Petreski-Seaton as well. We saw his breakout game against the Western Bulldogs back, I think it was in round 5, 33 touches. But this one was better. I think it was 35 touches against the Doggies. This one was better. This was a great game by Sam. I thought, his tackling pressure, he's always been a good tackler, but his ability to go forward in that second quarter and create contests, such a smart player. And he was in the game so much. He didn't drift out of the game, and he looked up for the fight. So, it's a massive thumbs up for Petreski-Seaton. He's getting into that range now in his 3rd season, up over 50 games. And I think it was just another breakout performance in him. And finally, Jack Silvani. What I would have liked to see with Jack was actually start on Fife. It was a little bit of a reactive move, and I can understand it, starting Curnow, but Curnow being skipper, I would have probably liked for Ed to play his own game. And he showed, that when he plays his own game, he's able to win the ball and win clearances. And I know he's our best tagger, but I just thought Jack coming back in, why not start him on that Fife and give him a role, give him a specific role? Because I thought early in the game he looked a little bit out of sorts with his marking up forward, and that was the problem, one of the reasons why he had to go back to the VFL. But his game on that Fife after half time, it was sort of career defining for Jack. He looks big, he looks strong in that goal he kicked in that last quarter. From a tight angle, we know he's a good kick, but he hasn't shown it. So hopefully now we can see a little bit more of Jack in the midfield and maybe playing a similar role with what Dylan Clark does at the Bombers, because we know he can find his own ball and we know that he's up for the fight. So there's a thumbs up to those 3 boys, and a special mention to Lockie O'Brien as well, who's really come on leaps and bounds in the last 3 weeks as well. So yeah, I think we're not starting to see now these boys who've been in the system a little bit becoming men. The 4th point I want to make is a little bit left field, is on Michael Gibbons. He's played every game for us, Michael Gibbons. I think he's flown under the radar a little bit. He hasn't had any what you would call outstanding performances where you would think, wow, have a look at Michael Gibbons, but he's been super consistent. He kicked our first goal. He runs incredibly hard, 16.1 Ks he ran on the weekend, which was more than any other player on the ground. That's fantastic considering we've got the likes of Ed Curnow, who's a running machine. He ran more kilometres than any player on the ground against the Western Bulldogs a couple of weeks back, and his pressure acts in the forward half are through the roof at the moment. He's a very important player. If you look at his numbers and stack them up against Kane Lambert in Kane Lambert's first year with the Richmond Football Club, when he first started at exactly the same age, the numbers are scarily similar. And we know how much that Kane Lambert has improved after his first season and become a real integral member of that Richmond midfield. Am I saying that Michael Gibbons is going to be Kane Lambert? No, I'm not. But what I'm saying is I know for a fact that Michael Gibbons is a little bit anxious. I've heard on the grapevine he's a little bit anxious about his future going into next year. With Brendan Bolton leaving the club, it leaves him in a little bit of limbo in getting a contract. But I'd love to see Michael Gibbons given a contract for next year. I think he's going to be a really important player for us in the last 8 weeks. He seems to be hugely popular amongst the playing group. He works extremely hard, and he's got a really, really good football brain as well. It's not all about running kilometres. I just think in time, I think you're going to see him consistently win, your 20 plus possessions in a game of football. So Michael Gibbons, massive, massive positive for us this year, and I just hope that we make the right call and give this guy a contract for next year, and I'm sure we will. Point number 5, I mentioned Murph before. I mean, how good is it just to see Mark Murphy back in the midfield where he belongs? I mean, all those, were asking questions about his commitment, and so be it. He was being asked to play an outside role on the wing. Probably took it literally. He wasn't putting his body on the line, or it didn't seem like he was putting on his body on the line. But we're seeing now the old Mark Murphy putting his head over the ball, hard at the contest, and to see what he did on the weekend, a 4-quarter performance, and kick that winning goal. It was just class. It oozed class, and we just wanted the ball in Mark Murphy's hands in that final 30 seconds. I could not be happier for Mark Murphy. Loves the club, and I hope moving forward that Murph can see some success in this football club. And the other one is Levi Casbolt. There's not one Carlton supporter who would have thought that Levi Casbolt will be doing what he's doing this season. There's no doubt he's playing his best football. Came in as the forward this year when we had some injuries, and then we had to go back. Now we're seeing Levi then have to go back forward with the injury to Harry Mackay. And his game on the weekend, he just looks confident, he looks assured, he looks strong. And he's becoming such an important player with the way we want to play. And like Murph, I couldn't be happier for Levi Casbolt. He's a Carlton person through and through. And it poses a question, doesn't it? A really interesting question in regards to what happens to Levi next year, out of contract, 28, 29 years of age. There was no way at the start of this year that he was going to be at our club next year, but it's getting to the point now where some serious sort of questions have to be asked in regards to what we're going to do with Levi moving forward. So there's no doubt that some other clubs would be interested in taking Levi, but for us, I think it's important that at his age and what he's done for us this year, that we lock him away pretty shortly, and hopefully Levi can finish off the season very strongly. Point number 6. I suppose the thing that I was worried about the most over the last couple of weeks was whether we could get Liam Jones back healthy. We've just seen so many players, Paddy McCartan, just to name one, whose careers have been ruined by head injuries and concussion. There was sort of alarm bells sort of rang with Liam after he went down with that knock with Cam Zurhaar and hadn't come back. I think 6 games he missed, Liam Jones. That something more serious and sinister was going on with Liam, experiencing sort of side effects from that heavy knock, and it was a brutal knock. And I was really worried that we weren't going to get Liam back, but gee, I'll tell you what, his game on the weekend, to see him fly for marks, his intercept marking is fantastic. I know Cam McCarthy kicked a few goals out of his ass. He always seems to do that against us. But to have Jones back there with Wiedering and Marchbank, and to see the way Liam played, it just made me really happy to see him back, to see him healthy. And to see the Liam Jones that we were seeing back at the start of the year was just a huge thumbs up for us. Finally, look, it's been a short episode. I don't want to bang on too much, but we now have Melbourne, and a really important game for us to continue the momentum that we've had over the last 3 weeks. We need to start well. I see that Max Gawn is under an injury cloud, which will probably help us, but they do have Braden Bruce to come back. But I think Matthew Cruz is such an integral part of our plans moving forward. He's just in such good form at the moment. Big Cruz, I think he could take on Max Gawn anyway. I don't think we need to rush back Paddy Cripps. We do not need to rush back Harry Mackay. And obviously Cunningham out as well. Charlie's not going to play, so I'd like just to see maybe, Cripps is not ready. If Harry's not ready, just maybe a swap of Charlie with David Cunningham, or even Jared Garlett if Cunningham's not ready, who played really well in the VFL on weekend with 3 goals. He was exceptional. So I'd like to maybe see Garlett get an opportunity. I know if Cam Paulson had kicked 3 goals in the VFL, he'd be straight back in. So let's maybe reward Jared Garlett with a really good effort in the VFL on the weekend. I think we can beat Melbourne. I think we're playing really good football to be able to give them a real fright there and not super form themselves, the Melbourne Footy Club. So I'm expecting a really good effort by our boys. A massive crowd should be there for us on the weekend. We're up and about at the moment, and David Teague's doing a wonderful job, and it's great to be winners, isn't it? So if you like these videos, please give us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys shortly.